Welcome to DESY Startups Meet Bulb, Deep Tech Talk. My name is Lawrence and I'm your host. In this format, we will talk to exciting founders from the world of science. We will get an exciting insight of their work and how science can make our lives easier and better. You don't have to be worried. The content is easy to understand, even for non-scientists. Sit back and enjoy the view of what's possible. In the fascinating world of science, there are moments when innovation, passion, and technological precision converge. Today, I have the privilege of speaking with three visionaries who embody these very elements. Coy, Anthony, and Michael, three of the founders of AMB. In this episode, we will explore AMB's fascinating journey, from the founding idea through technical challenges, the role of the DESY, to the vision of revolutionary muscle research. Get ready for insights that go far beyond traditional scientific conversations. Welcome to you all.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
So we have three people here right now. Could you please briefly introduce yourself and tell us what is your area of expertise?
Anthony should definitely start. He probably went together.
My name is Anthony Hessel. I'm a heart muscle physiologist, a skeletal muscle physiologist. I'm very interested in how muscle allows us to move, how heartbeats can function under various exercise conditions. And to study this, I use various techniques, including one special one here at DESY.
Thank you.
I'm Coy Wang, but most people just say my last name's Wan. So Coy Wan. I was most recently a cardiac MRI researcher, and before that, I was a mechanical engineer. Always been interested in muscle science, even though I don't have any muscles myself, unlike the other two in the room. So like I did my PhD in muscle science, but then I left to do other stuff. But when Anthony was telling me about this idea of starting a company to just do muscle diffraction science in a way that's easier for more people, more accessible, I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm Michael Kühn, or Michael. I'm a muscle physiologist and exercise physiologist. I'm currently finishing my PhD at the University of Münster, and Anthony introduced me into the world of X-ray diffraction, muscle X-ray diffraction. And yeah, now I'm working with Coy, Anthony, and the fourth member, Anna Good, for AMB.
Sounds very interesting. We already heard a lot about muscles. So what is AMB doing? And please try to explain it to me as a non-scientist. So like with the knowledge of a child.
I'll take a stab. Right. So AMB stands for Accelerate Muscle Biotechnologies. What we really do is that we look at the smallest size scales as we can in the muscle tissue, and then we ask questions about why is this muscle healthy, why is this muscle sick, and if we add something cool to it, like a drug, what has changed at that small size scale. And to get to these smaller size scales, what you really have to do is just get a really powerful particle accelerator to shoot X-rays at it. That's so powerful that if you leave it on, the muscle will cook itself into a medium rare steak. Anthony, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, so I fancy myself as like a glorified car mechanic. So if you have like your car engine light comes on, you bring it to the mechanic, they pop the hood and they look at the engine, they see what's wrong with it. And they turn on the car and they diagnose what's wrong with it and then they fix it. And so that's kind of what we do. We take living cells sometimes from humans, from donors, from patients, from animals, and we functionally use these X-rays to pop the hood of their motor, of their engine, and to look at it. So it allows us to, in real time, watch how the muscle motor works, when it's on, when it's off, when it's diseased, and if we have a diseased muscle, we want to try to treat it, we add a medication to it, and we see if it's actually helping bring it back to a healthy state.
So when we talk about muscles, it's just not the biceps, it's heart. Or
Both.
Both.
Yeah, skeletal muscle, heart muscle. Skeletal and heart muscle are similar, but there are some important differences that has to do with how they're used, right? Skeletal muscle can be left off for a while and it's okay. The heart doesn't have the luxury of stopping beating. And so there are some differences that exist between the muscles that we have to think about.
So there's going to be a wild field of usage of what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. So there are different fields. Of course, there's academia, like at different universities, institutes that do research in the field of cardiac or skeletal muscle science. We have, of course, the pharma industry, which want to check the drug development, if it works, if it's not working. But we also have like the whole sector of sports, entertainment, sports science, to see if an athlete is ready to compete again in the field, like a prevention methodology. Yeah.
It's actually quite, so if just thinking about elite performance, these players, these athletes can be worth 20, 30 million a year or more, right? They're all working right at the edge of what human performance can do, what's possible. And they're all trying to get a competitive advantage. And so a lot of them go to these special guru clinics that are out there in off seasons where they get blood work done. They do a lot of special testing where they get their muscles biopsied and looked at, like small biopsies, to see how their muscles are performing and if they're doing it ideally. And so there are ways that say our work can be used for high performance athletes to see if they're optimizing their training strategies to get every little last bit of their performance out.
And why is it so hard to get these analyses on these muscles? So you mentioned the X-ray gonna burn usually the cells. So how do you manage to keep them alive?
Yeah, I mean, so just going on with the car mechanic analogy Anthony was drawing. So we use X-ray to metaphorically open the hood, but the act of opening the hood will actually damage the car itself. So it's a trade-off between like how much do we open it and just enough so we can actually see what's happening, but not any further. So in X-ray, like everything we do, it's a destructive measurement. So just the act of looking there will destroy the molecular structure of the muscle. So we just try to look with as few X-ray beams as we can, not anymore.
And if we talk about X-ray, it's not like I'm going to the doctor and he's doing an X-ray. If I have a broken bone, what kind of X-ray you're using? What makes it special?
Yeah. So we call it a particle accelerator, but we're really here at a synchrotron. So we use a particle accelerator to get electrons close to the speed of light, and they go into a big circle, a big ring called a synchrotron, where it's not really a circle, it's a bunch of straight lines that the electrons are going on, and then they're pushed to the right continuously. And every time they're pushed, they release a brilliant spectrum radiation, like a lot of energy, including X-rays. And when that happens, we then use all this machinery to clean up the radiation, make it just X-rays, polarize it, look at it the way we want to. And when we have it, we create an X-ray beam that's 10 billion times stronger than what's at the dentist. And this we pass through the muscle. And because the muscle is very organized, it acts almost like a crystal. It's like a diamond, you put a regular light through it and it creates a rainbow. We do this, but like on steroids, where we put an X-ray through it and it creates this scatter that we can use to actually track where the muscle motor proteins are at any time.
Sounds crazy. What would happen if I put my hand into this X-ray? Would it burn?
Over time, yes.
Okay.
Yes, it would. So we do this work almost remotely. So we set up the muscle in what's called the experimental hutch. It's a big lead box. And we set up the experiments, and then we have to close the lead box and do all the work remotely outside.
Okay.
Because the radiation would end up killing us over time. And if you're not careful on how you do it, you see that you literally blow holes into the muscle. So there's a balance of saying, okay, we need to get, we want to hit them with X-rays and stuff, but there's a tricky process where we expose the muscle, where we limit damage as much as possible while also collecting as much data as possible, as much information as possible. And every synchrotron is different, how it interacts. Every sample, every species, every preparation technique, you have a different set of situations you have to deal with. So on the fly, you have to kind of fine-tune the process so that you can get quality data that means something. It's not just data from a dying cell. This is the trick.
Okay, it's sounds crazy. If you talk a little about your founding story, how come you let a German into your group? You're three U.S. citizens, if I'm right, or two?
Yeah. So 3 U.S. citizens and one German citizen, but 3 of us live in Germany. So I finished my PhD in Arizona, and then I came out here to do a postdoc. And while I was out here, I was still doing my research at a synchrotron in the States, but that one went for upgrade. So it was shut down. So during that time, I said, hey, let me go up to Hamburg. They have a synchrotron and see if they have something I can do. By chance, I met the CTO of DESY at the time, Eric Vilner.
Yeah.
And we had lunch, and I was just an academic saying like, hey, man, I want to make some software maybe to make my life a bit easier. And he put me, in the end, he said, you should really look at doing this as some sort of like contract research organization. And so he got me in contact with the DESY startup office, which then put us into the DESY startup school, where we started this kind of journey. And during this time, I went and found partners to come with me to do stuff. And Koi and Mikkel came along for the rides, and each one bring very unique skill sets that we desperately need to like do the science. And then Anna Good brought the desperately needed business degree to help us actually put all this together as we started to found. So we do work here. We also do work in the States. So we have 2 branches, we can say. Yeah.
Michael, from your point of view, how was it to become part of this company or the startup?
Yeah, really great, because I have one foot in academia and then AMB. So it was always one desire to have also like a safe place with AMB next to academia, because academia can be really hard. And AMB allows us to do basically a similar research we do and we love doing in academia, like, just in the private sector. And it gives us more and more freedom. And we are getting inspired by new corporations, by connecting with new companies and trying to develop and really improve muscle science and especially muscle X-ray diffraction.
So you can do what you love to do.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's not a visual podcast, but you are the guy with the muscles.
A few, yeah.
Koi, how is it for you, or how is it now to work for your own company?
Yeah, I mean, so Anthony found me when I was going through my midlife crisis of, do I want to be an academic, a researcher, or go work for industry and such? And it's a very common story. Like, researchers just love doing research, but they also want to do other things in life, and academia can get in the way. It was just a great time, because this resolves a lot of my issues, where I can live where I want, I can do the research I want. I still do a lot of the research that I did back then in my spare time, and now I have the freedom to do it. And I work many hours, but I don't feel tired doing it as I did before, because my time is mine now. It's actually a really great feeling.
That's nice. Yeah, that's nice doing what you love to do. And before we started, we talked, and I heard something about Twitter story. So,
yeah.
Do you want to mention it?
Yeah. So, how did I go scour the world for the right founders? Yeah, I just posted something on Twitter, which my old PhD advisor heard about, and then Koi's old PhD advisor, who our advisors know each other, said, hey, this may be a good connection. So then that advisor contacted Koi. Koi, I think, created a Twitter account.
Just to respond
to the post.
And this was 2 years ago. I have not made a single update to that Twitter.
Yeah, it's true. It's still, but he has a fantastic profile picture, a good like business casual suit picture. So, but yeah, so that was how we met. We talked on Zoom about the idea. At that point was still just software stuff.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, Koi rolled the dice on it, and it's just exploded into something so much bigger.
Yeah. I mean, I remember like my advisor like telling me about this. He's like, "Hey, there's someone asking for an AI scientist." I'm like, "I don't know AI. What the heck is this?"
Mhm.
And then we were chatting, and I was like, "Oh yeah, Anthony's not even asking for AI." And the software solutions he was asking for seemed pretty straightforward to me, at least from my point of view. But difficulty is just like the science, the reproducibility, and that stuff. So developing the tool, I don't think is too difficult, but using the tool in a way that's productive was more difficult.
Now, Koi says this, but he's being incredibly humble on the fact that he's like walked into our research labs and we've done certain experiments for like 15 years the same way. And he's like, well, this is a stupid way to do this now, isn't it? And he comes up with like spare parts and you just build something that's so much more clever than what we have done. And it's made everything better, more reproducible and like higher quality, higher throughput on samples with such small changes. But yeah, it's been hugely beneficial.
I mean, similar to beginner's luck, I came from the outside the field, so I was not restricted by the current way of thinking of what was in your field. Yeah, and I also want to add that our PhD advisors knew each other really well. I had no idea who Anthony was. Anthony had no idea who we were. If it wasn't for our PhD advisors vouching for each other, this would not have happened. Mm-hmm. And I like to describe me and Anthony as the kids telling like the advisors, the parents, like, "Hey, we built something cool. Take a look."
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes your parents know what's good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I hope my advisor doesn't hear that.
That's great that you four met each other.
Mm-hmm.
And now we are sitting here in Hamburg, talking about synchrotron X-rays.
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn a little bit more about how this synchrotron works and how if we talked about it, you book some time to use it. You said about setups. How long does it take for you before you can really use the X-ray?
You want to go, Mikkel?
So from the start of an application for beam time, I mean, this is 6 months to sometimes maybe a year. And it's really hard to get beam time. So there are not many people in the world that are first able to do this work. So, Anthony, what you guess, like below 50 persons in skeletal muscle research?
Yeah, 50 people total in the world who have ever attempted this. Yeah, like all time.
Okay, that's not much.
Then getting the time is really difficult. And then, of course, you need all the different tools. And this is why we also work so hard, especially Koi, on creating new hardware. Then we need the software. Setting up, especially getting man and woman power in the lab is really hard because sometimes these shifts are like 3 to 5 days and you work like 20 hours
each day. Yeah.
Each day, three to 4 hours sleep.
Yeah, I've done a 40-hour shift before. Just needs to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all done 40-hour shifts.
Yeah,
it just has to be done.
And so it takes a lot, but it's still fun. But it's a lot of effort and sacrifice you have to give to do this.
And you can use the beam on your own. Other than just if all the
relatively
DESY
now,
employees leave, and you can just I do it. I press that key, and I know what to do.
Yeah, so this is probably important. Like so tax money in Germany and in the States and everywhere else that has these accelerators pays for staff to be there to help. Now they're not muscle scientists themselves, but they help make sure that the other, between $10 and $20 million or euros of equipment is working, which is good, and we have them to help us. But then after that, we become kind of on our own to know, do we have good quality? And I think for all those people listening, especially maybe other scientists who do wet lab work, picture taking your entire lab and putting it in your car, and then you're breaking it down, putting it in your car, and then bringing it to a foreign place that isn't a place to do biology. And then in like 24 hours, setting it up, and everything has to work perfectly immediately. and then running almost 3 months of experiments in about 4 days, and then breaking everything down and going. So that's kind of the logistical nightmare of doing this kind of work.
And it sounds like a lot of preparation. So
Yeah.
if you want to do, you must have like a timeline, experiment 1, 2, 3, or AB3.
Yeah.
See what
Yeah, and backup plans, plan A, B, C. I mean, right now we had right now we have a process going on, a project, and half the samples got stuck in Cologne for no one knows what reason, but they're there. And now it looks like they're making their way here, but already we make a plan B and C. We have extra projects and stuff ready to go if we have to, so that and being in contact with the customer so that they feel that, you know, they understand that there's a bit of a fire to put out, but, you know, we got it under control. And the cool thing is that because we're all real scientists, like I have real research grants, real labs to run and stuff. And so, you know, when there's a problem, I can make a real decision on like what's going to be the next best thing to do scientifically for that data. And I think that that is why people trust us to do this. It's not just as like very few people who can do it. It's that we have a track record of doing this in a really good, ethically sound and smart way.
So you mentioned you're not doing your own research, you're doing research for companies or other scientists as well.
Yeah.
So you're bookable.
Yeah. So we are bookable. We take people all the time. We do a lot of different types of projects. Almost every muscle experiment is possible that you'd normally do in the lab, but you can also add this X-ray technology where now you can also visualize what's going on with the motor proteins, which is useful. And we take care of all of the logistical hurdles in front. People, sometimes when we have academics who do work with us, they bring their students as a ride-along and we teach them and use them as well, which is nice. And then there's other situations where they say, we just want some answers. So I give you some samples and you just tell us what the answer is. And we do this as well. And then we also, when we have time, do our own personal academic-based research as well, studying various proteins that we're interested in. So we have all the tools so we can keep being scientists too, for sure.
Really good mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
And so is it what makes Hamburg special? So you found it in Germany as well. So was you're based in Germany? Is what makes Hamburg special and maybe comparison to other synchrotrons all over the world you've seen?
I mean, at least for me, Hamburg was where we started. Like, it was where we were encouraged to even start. I think if Anthony didn't have this meeting with Arik, Arik, like, no one, that company wouldn't have existed, right? So, like, there are many synchrotrons. Not all synchrotrons have the same culture. Not all synchrotrons pushing the same thing. And DESY in particular has been very good with pushing people to, be more industry-like, solve problems outside academia. And for that, I'm like very grateful, and that's why Hamburg is special for me too.
Yeah, and like Hamburg's biotech scene is emerging. So often you have synchrotrons. We won't say any names here. We won't kick anyone when they're down. But there's certain synchrotrons you go to, and there's nothing in the area. There's no other. So like we're doing our work here, but we also need like wet lab space to do our research, to do prep, the logistics, whatever else in the area. We need like machine shops. We need certain types of fabrication design things. Like we need all these different things that exist in the biotech community to exist close by. And because of the kind of science atmosphere that the whole DESY complex brings, there's a lot of that available here. And they're building it up really fast. So you have the like Startup Labs Bahrenfeld, which is where we are right now, which is now Startup Lab Hamburg. I think they just changed their name. We rent out space they have a maker space. So it's like a small engineering suite that we rent out so we can quickly make modifications to our stuff. But you can also rent out wet lab spaces and other things like this. And over the next few years, they're going to be building, they're tearing down some old buildings nearby, and they're going to be creating like many buildings for this so-called, I think, science city or science village. So you kind of want to be here at the beginning because you can take advantage of everything before it's packed. And I really think that this is coming. So it's going to be a fantastic point to be for us to do our work at synchrotrons all throughout Europe.
Yeah. And as Coy said, the support is so great from Startup Labs Hamburg or DESY Startup. Also, like the staff at DESY, they're so supportive.
Shout out to Lizzie. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's Lizzie. Yeah.
and you really feel that they want you to perform well and to rise. So this is, for me personally, one of the main factors to be really confident in the cooperation here in Hamburg.
Great. We hope, or Hamburg hopes to have you here as long as you will do your research. And if you're gonna take a look in the future, how gonna your research have an impact on the pharma industry, or what's gonna happen?
So like,
What do you think?
What's the vision?
What's your vision for you personally with the company, and what's gonna be the greatest achievements maybe in the future?
I mean, there's two obvious answers that come to mind. I think we're taking them. So why don't you say the first one? I'll say the second.
No. Go ahead. You can say both of them.
I mean, I'll say one. So, this is a company, but I feel like we're all pseudo academics because we all that's how we were trained and whatnot. And one thing I want to do with this company is be a place for people who want to do research but don't have to decide between academia and not living a great work-life balance or having financial stability. So I want this company to be, in the future, to be a place where people can do industry work on the side to fund the stuff that they really want to do. And it has to be in areas that we can support, right? But that's my dream for the company on a personal level. There's the second answer for pharma, but go ahead and you should take an answer, Anthony.
What is it?
The pathology lab.
Yeah. So, okay. Yes, of course. So, there's a lot of, it's really tough to look at muscle cells from people. So people have these debilitating muscle diseases like childhood musculoskeletal diseases. They are special diseases, and each of them have their own problems. It's not just like the timing belt on the engine is broken. There's very specific small defects in the engines of each of these kids that have each of these diseases. Even if they're named the same thing, they actually have a lot of different pathways that lead to them being sick. So it's not easy to just say, let's just give them a drug and fix them, or let them try different drugs. These drugs can have bad consequences if they don't work, right? So what you really want to say, let me take a small sample of your muscle, the sick muscle, and let me do something where I can look at it and I can assess what drug is needed to fix this. And long term, there are two ways this can be done, right? So you can say, okay, we take some of the sample and we look at it using X-ray. And we say, okay, it's sick. Let's start applying these different drugs that are available and let's see which ones fix it. So we can immediately decide which of these drugs is going to help the most. But maybe the drug doesn't exist at all. This is where our partnerships, emerging partnerships with different chemistry and pharma people come into play. It's that if we can get detailed enough data from this X-ray work and some of the other normal traditional muscle experiments that we do, they can then design custom for the patient drugs, medications, which then we can immediately test for toxicity and other kinds of effects right at the beamline immediately, and then we can prescribe it, or the doctor can prescribe it directly to the patient. So a patient-focused drug discovery pipeline. We're nowhere near that yet, but but it's not impossible. It's feasible to do. So we think that long term, if people work on really striving to improve the quality of the data, to improve how quickly we can look at it, assess it, and being really sure that what we're looking at is really what we're seeing, to trust, have confidence in what the data is saying, then I think this is going to happen.
So I always say the first step right now is to make muscle X-ray diffraction sexy again, to make people aware that we work with muscle X-ray diffraction. That it is a necessary and really important tool, especially for pharma industry, pharma companies, for drug testing, which will save them a lot of money, and also probably make them a lot of money. But yeah, it's really important that this message is getting out, that they should contact us. that there are better ways to see if a drug works or it's not working. And it's an add-on method to right now the gold standard, or what they think is the gold standard. So that's really what we are striving for right now, and hope to be successful in the future.
I hope for everybody, because what you just told me, and I hopefully Anna's got it right, everything. Thanks for the explanation. It's a super important field of research for everybody of us kind of diseases, or however you can expand your research on other fields. Do you think, one last question, do you think one day you're going to have smaller X-rays to do it? Do you think they're going to be like the hardware going to change to do it? Or is it
benchtop radiation sources, as one calls it, Koi?
Yeah, so I know this technology is in the works. I'm not super familiar with it, but the dream is we can have a benchtop synchrotron-like source where people don't have to fly out to one of the few synchrotron facilities in the world to do these experiments. I mean, it'll still be a very complicated experiment, a machine that'll take up the building, but you don't have to fly out. You can have it on multiple campuses. And then you can do these experiments at local facilities, and so it just improve access everywhere for muscle science and for a lot of people who use synchrotron radiation for a lot of research too.
Yeah, the original way this stuff was done. In fact, even at DESY here, when they originally built the original Doris storage rings and things like this, one reason was because there was a muscle scientist who was in Germany, in Europe, who wanted to see this work done, and synchrotrons would be a way to use it. That was one of the selling features. So all the way back when they were first building this, muscles were front and center, at least for physiology's needs for this. But before synchrotrons, people did this benchtop in their labs. They had radiation sources, just things that emitted radiation, and they would clean it up and use the X-rays there. But it was very dirty and very weak. So, you'd have to hit the muscle for, say, 18 hours or 36 hours to get the most easiest signals to get, where now we can shoot it for 20 milliseconds and we get everything. Okay. So, right. So now the benchtop sources have to become better. And this is being worked on, and they're getting these radiation sources that don't need a particle accelerator to do their job, are coming about. So Fraunhofer has a lab that works on this in Germany. And we work with them a little bit on this, or we've talked with them about this. And then there are some companies as well that are trying to make these. And they're already successful for material science. But material science is like real metals, crystals. You don't need a lot of strong X-rays to do the work. Skeletal muscle, cart muscle, it's sensitive tissue, and it's a lot of water, right? It's not like it's not a real crystal. So we need to have more powerful sources still for it. But we're working with the people who do this, and they're quite interested to know when their technology is good enough to do muscle stuff with, because that really does change this diagnostic care use for this, right? Because then you're talking about you can do hundreds of samples a day anywhere. It takes up the size of an MRI space. You hire a technician to do it, and so it really does change. This stuff is feasible, but still not in the immediate future, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
So it's super interesting what's already possible and what's gonna be possible in the future. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your science, because I think you are one of the reasons to make our future more healthy. So thank you, and thank you for the good work and for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.